So on with the snare. Okay, that's it soloed. Here's it together. Okay, so soloed. Let's take a look at or listen to what it really sounds like. I'm gonna have you hear it naked. Ugh. It hurts. Okay, so the first EQ is got a big giant cut there, about 377 hertz. Got a couple lifts, and it rolls off at about 100 hertz. Next EQ. Got a big, huge notch right here. For some reason or another. That's what I ended up with. Then, of course, here we're ending up doing a low-end boost and a high-end boost. It's getting there. And then with the UAD, we've got crazy sauce EQ. And that's what we ended up with. Here's what we started with. Okay. And of course, context is everything. So if we listen to this snare with the other microphones, like for instance, even just the bottom snare mic, just a paralleled, compressed feed off of that snare, and then the overheads. Really start sounding nice. And now we add the trigger, which I just added in there to get some ring on it because I didn't want to have an overabundance of ring on the real snare. So here it is together. Here's the trigger by itself. Okay, and here's everything again in context. Cool. So again, the overheads is key to tying things together, at least as far as I'm concerned, and within most tracks that I'm doing within rock and pop. Overheads, speaking of them, we have quite a bit of EQ going on. What seems like a little there on the Oxford EQ. Got a whole bunch of low-end boosts on the Pultec, and then we've got a high-end rise as well. And then on the overhead bus, you can see hit with maybe 2 or 3 dB of limiting, and actually no compression, but I am hitting it with a parallel, actually no parallel with a clipper. So there's actually no compression on this per se. Just a little bit of limiting and a clipper. Hi-hat, we've got a little bit of a lift on the Sonics or Oxford. I've got a limiter. Again, so we don't end up with too much snare pounding on all the mics. You know, there's a little bit of limiting hitting the peaks of the snare. We've got quite a bit of lift going on with this Helios UAD. Maybe even too much. And then a little bit of actual compression with the CLA 76 here. Toms have absolutely nothing on them, as we discussed before. We'll get to the master. For the close room mics, got an active EQ going on with the Fab Filter Pro MB. this EQ going on, which is a low boost. And a little bit of a crack off the snare here, and then just a little bit of rolling off of the highs. And then we've got Fab Filter Pro EQ knocking out a nasty little honk sound that's happening. Actually, I'll show it to you. Let's just do this one. Right there. It's like a submarine. Here's without that filter. Anyway, so it gets rid of a little nasty honk that's happening because that, for some reason, we're getting a little buildup happening there. And then we've got those two mics are bust into more EQ, which is more pulls. Fairchild 670 in parallel mode. It's a little hashy on the highs because of this Kramer tape I've got running. And the crunchy saturation happening on the BX saturator here. So if I turn this off, it's better. But it gets boring when I turn all that stuff off. So I've got a little bit of sun port of a layer studio happening mixed in with my close rooms. Here's what the close rooms sound like without that. That's obviously in. Here's out. That just adds a nice little tail to it. And I mean, I've got two other sets of mics that are farther down the room, down the hall, that give me more decay. But this just kind of sounded cool. So, moving down the line here, we've got the hall room mics, or actually it's only one mic, and then I parallel over to an aux input right here, and then I use compression and EQ to create kind of a stereo animation panning effect to kind of fake a stereo mic out of a single mic. So here we got de-essing on the drums. I can get away with it because this mic is farther away, so even though the de-esser is causing phase problems, it's not really because it's so far away from the other mics. So we got some pulls. Got some Neve 33609 UAD. Needle moving a little bit, and then he bounces over to this other, or to the right side. I've got little labs in between phase tool with automation slightly adjusting phase so it never sounds boring. It's slightly moving. Quite a crazy pull on that mic to get it to not build up. Kramer Pi. Compression. And then bus EQ, further but more bus EQ. Okay, I see why I did that. This EQ, or this compressor, this Kramer Pi is there to kind of tie them together. Got a clipper. It's parallel. Kramer tape to give it a little bit of crunch. And some massive low end boost and a little bit of cut to kind of tie it all together. Then for our final room mic, we've got a Fostex M22rp printed ribbon, which is it's got a cardioid element and a bidirectional element, and basically what you do is you duplicate the bidirectional element and you flip the phase on one side, so it allows you to blend in or control the stereo field with a middle side processing technique, and it's pretty cool. It's kind of phasey sounding on its own, but if you collapse it into mono, it's fine. It's a little hollowed out. But let's turn the hall on. Close mics. Overheads. It's a pretty badass drum tone by itself right there. We'll hear everything again. And that's about it. Just real quickly, you know, going through things just to kind of show that we can do everything we want to do, you know, with these different sets of mics. We can go bone dry with just kick and snares if we want to. I mean, really dry if we don't want to do the overheads. I can pull out that trigger too. Okay, now it's overheads with no trigger. Okay, trigger back in. Hat mic. This is just the kick, snare, hat, toms, and close rooms and overheads now. I mean, you really don't even need the other mics, but they're just fun to have. Add the hall in. Far mics. Yeah. So, I mean, you can do everything from bone dry to you know, fully ambient. You can have your crazy overcompressed room drum intro mics if you want. And so basically this is just kind of showing what you can do at a studio like World Class Audio, where we have the acoustics to be able to pull off you know, clean acoustic signatures on your tracks and give you a lot of flexibility down the road. And that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the little inner tour of the tracks here. And if you have any questions, just message me. And please subscribe to the channel. And of course, feel free to contact us if you want to look into booking some time. And my name's Sean Sullivan. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.